Welcome to Sober.Coffee, a weekly coffee chat sharing experience, strength, and hope for anyone on the sober road to recovery. You can download Sober.Coffee weekly on all podcast platforms and check us out on Instagram at Sober.Coffee Podcast and on Twitter at Sober.Coffee Pod. To learn more about us and to help support these sessions, visit online at Sober.Coffee. Here are your hosts, two guys on their own path to recovery, Mike and Glenn. Let's join them at the coffee shop.
Glenn.
What's going on, brother? Good morning.
Good to be back
Good
in
morning,
the coffee
good afternoon,
shop.
good night. I know I love being in a coffee
Wait,
shop.
good morning, good afternoon, good night?
I know. It's like just a general greeting.
Okay. Well, no matter when you're listening to the podcast, it's one of those three
coffee,
things.
right? Just bring on the coffee.
That's right. So how you doing today, man?
Doing fantastic.
Yeah?
I've,
You energized? Ready for a good half hour?
Absolutely. I'm ready for a marathon.
Oh man, that was too easy.
How's that,
somebody
huh?
put the ball on
Somebody teed it up
on
for
the
me.
tee.
I
Yeah,
know,
that
I know.
was nice.
Yeah, so let's just jump right into it. We normally do housekeeping and stuff and just talk about how funny Mike is, but let's just jump right into it. So, as you know, as a lot of people know, we're out there on social media, this whole social media thing. And we have Instagram, we got some Twitter going on, we've got whatever, right?
Right.
I think you have a TikTok out there somewhere
We got
that
an
we're not
email.
going to talk about.
We got an email list. A lot
Oh,
of
yeah,
people.
we have
right?
an email list going. We got a website that's being built out. Great resources, great writings and blogs. I mean, each one ties to the show and just fantastic. So we got a lot of stuff going on. Anyhow, we've connected with how I would describe him as a sober stud. That's my language, not his marketing line. But there's a guy, Luc, out there, and it's Marathon to Sobriety, and we connected a couple months ago. So just to let everybody know, we have a table for three today.
Yeah, we do.
If you haven't figured that out.
So what we got here is a sober stud,
Yep.
a badass, and
Yep.
I'll explain that later. And then what's your tag for today? What are you, a superpower? Superman?
No, I think superpower is great. I think sobriety is a superpower. I think connecting with other, superpowers and studs in sobriety, people that just get it, people that are surging forward and have purpose of sobriety. I love doing that because I get charged up, and I know our listeners get charged up today by connecting with Luc here.
Yeah, sounds good. So I just to cue it up one more time, I introduced myself as a badass. So I went to the website and I signed up for the newsletter, and the first newsletter I got says it was a reminder to me that I'm a badass. Remember, you are a sober badass. And so when Luc jumped on this morning, I'm like, hey, I'm a badass. And he just kind of smirked. Welcome, Luc. I'm so glad to have you in a coffee shop with the badass.
I love it. Thank you so much for having me, guys. I really appreciate it. And you are absolutely a sober badass. No question.
Check you out, man. That's
no
great.
No question about it. Both of you guys. So listen, thanks so much for having me this morning. Very complimentary, by the way. Thank you for all the sober stud. I mean, that put a smile on my face. So thanks for saying that.
Yeah, totally. But I will be fully transparent here. I'm a little intimidated with Luc coming on because I think Luc follows two paths. I think there's a sober path, which I feel very comfortable. I'll sit in a room with anybody on sobriety, and because I just get. But then his second path is like fitness and running,
right?
And I'm so intimidated. I'm trying to find that path, and I'm working hard at it. And I'm so intimidated, but I'm going to learn.
Right.
I'm going to listen and learn today.
Well, and here's
Luc?
what I'm going to say. It's not like you're on the sideline. It's because I know you. It's not like you're on the sideline, not gearing up and lacing up. You're pacing yourself. You're on the
Mikey, that sounds so good.
You're on the track.
I'm like one of those horses at Churchill Downs that they buck and they're trying to, get into the starting gate and they're rearing back and their hooves are going up, and
you know what you
that's
need?
where I'm at right now.
Okay, we're gonna shut up for a second,
Luc.
because you know what you need? You need a marathoner and alcohol-free life coach. Go ahead, Luc. Fix this guy, would you?
I think you just found
if
a new
you can
client.
fix him in a half hour, I'll pay you your fee.
That's awesome.
So listen, I totally understand what you're saying by the marathoning or the running can be very intimidating. Absolutely. I was also very intimidated by it too. But I'll say that the two go hand in hand for me. Like I don't think I would be as secure in my sobriety without my fitness and my running. They go hand in hand for me. For me, they're the same thing. My running and my sobriety, they are the same thing, because I'll tell you why. Both of them are extremely difficult. They're hard, right? Running a marathon is not easy. Being sober is not easy. They both require there's no shortcuts. There's no shortcuts in sobriety, no shortcuts in running. You need to put the work in. And what does that mean? You show up. Every day I'm working on my sobriety. It's top of mind. I'm very intentional, right? I'm working on it. Same thing with my running. Like I'm running a lot, but it's like you can't miss a workout to do 2 the next day. That's not how it works. So it's they go hand in hand, and that's a big part of like why I'm so excited about the running and like I'm doing some running coaching too, is that I'm meeting so many people who are also intimidated by running, and it's a scary thing, right? Like you're like, it doesn't have to be marathons and all these things, but there is something about the connection between the mind and body that fitness brings that really helps kind of ease a lot of anxiety and just put the mindset in the right place. So I'm a huge advocate of that, and I really want to help people, find things that work for them, right? Like I was never a runner before I got sober.
Wow.
Yeah, I found my running in sobriety. I hated running. In fact, I absolutely despised it. I was always fit. I went to the gym a lot when in my past life, in my drinking days. I worked out a lot. Even when I was drinking and struggling, I went to the gym, 4 or 5 days a week for 15 years. So I was always in like good shape. But I can't compare the shape I'm in now to before. And by that, I mean, probably I look less attractive now physically than I did before, because I'm looking like a runner, like getting scrawny and stuff like that. But before I was, in the weights a lot. So I was a bit more defined, but my mental clarity, you can't compare the two. Right. Cannot compare the two between how I was before and how I am now with my sobriety and my running.
Yeah, I love the connection. I absolutely love the no shortcuts thing, keeping it top of mind. I love the fact that you can't run twice. My program would have me running 7 laps on Sundays.
I know, that's that mental stuff where we justify or we try to figure everything out instead of just sticking with the plan.
Right. So let's back up the clock a bit. Tell me a little bit about your sobriety moment. You don't need to go into a drunk log. I'm not looking for the whole history, but just tell me what I'd love to know what the transition was that Luc woke up or in the middle of the day said, there's got to be a better way. Can you just give me a description of that, just so we have a baseline?
Yeah, absolutely. So just to kind of summarize it, I was a social drinker. I struggled a lot in social situations. The term AUD, alcohol use disorder, right. I really relate to that.
Yeah, I
never craved alcohol.
Right.
I never drank on my own. I was very much a high functioning person who just struggled with in social situations. I had a lot of social anxiety. I felt awkward in situations, so I drank a lot, and I just had a hard time stopping. That was my problem. So I knew I had a problem because I would black out a lot at parties and just that was my kind of trend and trajectory. It wasn't good. And then when I got introduced to drugs, in my so right now I'm 38 years old, living in Toronto, Canada. I got introduced to drugs probably around 30, so about 8 years ago.
Yeah,
right, pretty late, right?
Yeah.
And when I got introduced to that really accelerated things for me. Things got bad pretty quick, and then I knew that this wasn't sustainable. Like this 48-hour parties and stuff like that, it just wasn't sustainable. So I knew I had a bit of a problem. So I was doing therapy. So I was doing therapy to moderate my drinking, because I felt like if I could moderate my drinking, I wouldn't be using the drugs.
Right.
Because for me, they went hand in hand.
Yeah,
I wouldn't
absolutely.
just go for the drugs on its own. So I did that for years. Like I really tried to moderate. And it would work sometimes, and it wouldn't work most other times. So, this went on for a while, disappointing myself a lot, disappointing those, how it works, right? Those around you probably even more. And then it was something about this one morning I woke up just really feeling bad. And I was like, I got to do something different. So I went online that morning when I woke up, and I Googled, another therapist in Toronto, right? And lucky enough, I found somebody who was available within a couple hours of reaching out. And this was in 2016, around just after Christmas. So it was like the 27th or something like that. So I went to see him. We talked, and within, 20 minutes of talking, he looked at me straight in the eyes like no one has talked to me before. And he said, Luc, you can never be drinking again. And I was just like, holy shit. Like,
right,
first
never?
of all, yeah. I was like, first of all, you're crazy. I'm half Italian, half French Canadian, and that's our culture.
There was whiskey in your baby bottle.
No, it's like my Italian grandfather. He made wine at home.
Oh, sure.
And right, and like we grew up with that. Like we were drinking that when we were younger with his ginger ale, like very with the family. So we were like, alcohol was just like a part of who we are. It's like that's just our cultures, right? So this whole concept of like not drinking again, I debated him in the moment. I was like, are you crazy? Like, no way. But then when the conversation ended and I went to my car to go home, I just started crying. I couldn't stop crying. I just couldn't stop. And I just knew that he there was something there. So that's when that kind of moment went where I was open-minded. I just like, okay, Luc, like you screwed up enough times. And I think I was just frankly ready to try something different. And that's when it all started. And I got and so that was around December 27. We had that meeting, and then December 31st was my last drink, and I haven't touched the drop since then. So it's been just over 6 years.
You know what's amazing? How many people wanted to stop, wanted that anniversary date? I mean, half the population aspires to have that anniversary date because they made the promise on December 31st. Every year, tomorrow I'm not drinking. You actually are that guy that did it.
It just kind of worked out like that.
Yeah, no, I know, but it's amazing. It just worked out like that. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, good stuff, man. I love the never thing. And but I want to bake on the open-minded thing because I think that's where we segue back into fitness and how fitness and it goes hand in hand, right? So I have a bit of closed mind, right? I think sobriety is sobriety. I've got it compartmentalized. What I heard you say in your introduction is there's so much similarity. There's so much to it. Look, I know I need to be healthier. I'm getting up there in age. I know I need to be taking care of myself. I loved running. I was a cross-country runner in high school. And then unlike you, I was introduced to drugs and alcohol early on in high school. And so I quit the team because they didn't run to the drug dealer. And so, but I loved this. I loved the feeling of running. I loved the health aspects. But that was 50 years ago, right? It's 40 years ago. So I need to be open-minded to understanding the correlation between mind and body. And I think that's what I love about your story is you take that element with the marathoning. And again, for me, I'd aspire to do a 5K, right? But I need to get open-minded. I'll shut up. But that's where I kind of parked on. I need to be open-minded that, I need to take a little baby step. And, maybe a marathon's in my future, maybe it's not. But, boy, a 2K, would be a huge accomplishment for me, right? But I need to be open-minded, and I really love that you said that.
Yeah, it's like, like I mentioned at the beginning, right? I found running in my sobriety. I like I said, I was never a runner, never on the track team. Like growing up, I hated running. But I found running about just over 2 years of my sobriety. And that was like a huge turning point in my sobriety because up until that point, I was just to be honest with you, a big part of myself was still feeling sorry for myself that I was sober. Like that was a big thing that I had. I was not proud that I was sober.
Wow.
I felt like I was weak because I was sober. Like, Luke, you can't handle your booze.
Yeah, right.
So you should be ashamed of that, especially as a man. Like that's not cool, right?
Right.
So I felt like a big part of me was very, very ashamed of my sobriety. But when I found running, it gave me like purpose. It gave me this, it gave me routine, of course, but it gave me this things like, okay, Luke, you're not drinking, but like, what are you doing? Like, okay, you got this, you're waking up earlier, but what are you doing? So it's like almost like a thing in my head. It's like, I can't, maybe I can't, I don't want to stay late, or I don't want to do these things because I have a long run in the morning. Like I have a run in the morning and I have goals, and I love chasing goals. I love setting hard goals, and it doesn't like, I can probably hear myself talking. Okay, you sound like a hardcore runner. Like, no, this, like you said, you mentioned you want to get into running a 2K. That's absolutely fantastic. I think that's such a cool thing, such a cool goal to do. It doesn't have to be these extreme things. Right. It's just about, like you said, being open-minded, trying something different and seeing if you like it. Because it may not be running. It doesn't have to be running. For me, it's running. Right. But for you, it could be something else, or it could be a component of running. It could be running once a week. And that gives you that aura of the mind-body thing. It doesn't have to be all these things. So I love when I hear people, putting their shoes on or doing something different because look, this sobriety thing is more about self-discovery than anything else. Absolutely. Right? You remove something that we've been so connected to and doing without even any thought, right? It's just like drink, celebrate, drink, bad day, drink. Like it's like automatic.
Tuesday drink.
Remove that thing. It's like, who am I? Like, really, who am I? What do I like to do? What am I actually passionate about? And it's in that process that you really, I find yourself. And once you put that work in and you find yourself what you like, and you try a bunch of different things, it's like that's when things really, really change in sobriety.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
really
so
change.
Let me just jump in with a couple things. I'm making so many notes, and it's Luke, I love having you on. Send me the invoice. But it's funny about the self-discovery. It's no secret that I go to a therapist. I call him my coach, and I've seen him, same guy, I don't know, 10 or 12 years or 14 years or whatever. And I go to him periodically in and out. But I'm going to him now every other week, not because I have negative issues in my life. I'm actually going because things are going okay, and I want things to continue to be okay. And as things go okay, I'm learning things about myself. I'm feeling, blah blah, right? So it's an outlet, right? But the self-discovery, we're actually, the last two sessions that we've had are about Glenn's identity, because there's things I do today and situations I go through, I don't recognize the Glenn today, right? I have 50 years of programming of Glenn, and I go through situations I went through 20 years ago, and I'm a different person going through those situations today, and I have different tools, and I really, I don't recognize myself today. But a couple things. When you think of running, first of all, I have a life-threatening allergy to exercise and to running that goes back to high school.
It's a medical disorder.
Yeah, I have a note from my doctor.
Yeah.
In high school, when we used to have to run the mile, I thought that was the most painful day of the year. I don't know. Maybe it's all head trash. I don't know. But I've listened to this dude. Maybe you guys have heard of him, but David Goggins, right? And he's a runner, right? So part of my morning meditation, I start out with all my AA and my spiritual and all that stuff for about a half hour, and then I turn Goggins on, right? And his message is, either path is not easy. Either path is hard. Pick your heart, right? And sitting on the couch in the moment is easy, but the rest of the day is hard because I sat on the couch and I ate 4 donuts. Mm-hmm. that 20 minutes or that 30 minutes felt great. But the rest of the 23 and a half hours,
right, sure.
It's
miserable,
hard because I did that.
Right.
Or you pick your hardware, hey, for 45 minutes or 60 minutes, it's hard, right? Maybe physically hard, maybe mentally hard, right? For me, mostly mental. Once I get on the path, hey, it's easier, right? But then the other 23 hours a day, I benefit and get value of because I invested that hour. It's just hard for me to get back into it. So I love how you say. I also love how you say there's no shortcuts.
Right.
Glenn always looked for a pill. Glenn wanted a pill. Tomorrow will be different because I took this pill. Or I was waiting for the lightning bolt that never came, And there's no shortcuts. And I've learned that in my sobriety. Just keep doing the next right thing despite how I feel, and the feelings eventually catch up, right? And then I love what you say, Luke. I'll underline it. You said it a couple times. I'll underline it one more time. That fitness connects the mind and body, right? And I think that's really important. So I have to, for sake of time, I have to ask, what does it look like? And I'm not just doing it for the show. I'm doing it because I'm personally interested. What does it look like to engage you as a coach? How effective is it virtually? And how do people, and I mean, I know how to find you, but how do people find you?
Glenn, this is the first time we're talking, and I already feel like we connect on a lot of levels. Everything you said resonates so much with the identity thing. Absolutely. Because really, I want to actually double click on that for one quick second. I haven't talked about this with you, but I've talked about this with, a lot of other people when I'm doing these kinds of things. Is I was in the sober closet for 5 years. So by that, I mean, when up until I hit my 5-year anniversary, I never talked about my sobriety. I was embarrassed. I was ashamed. Even though I found running halfway through there, I still never talked about my sobriety. I dodged the question. Colleagues, extended family members never knew I was sober because I never talked about it. I was ashamed. Once I hit 5 years, I was like, Luke, that's a pretty cool thing. Be proud of yourself for a second. So what happened in that moment, something about the number 5, I shifted my identity, like what you said. I started identifying and being proud of this new person that I've become. And it wasn't until I made that change in my mind that, like, from 5 years to now, I've never been in a better place. But in those 5 years, I struggled. I wasn't a happy, sober guy. I was sober, not recovered at all. Even though I found running, it's that identity thing. So that's a huge, huge part of this, Glenn. I'm so glad you talked about this. You don't need to be 5 years sober to do an identity change and to find yourself and to be proud of who you are. You can do that on day one. You can do that early. Don't do like me. Don't suffer in silence for 5 years. Just because you're not using didn't make me a better person. It didn't. Like, yeah, my lows weren't as bad because I wasn't using and drinking, but I didn't have any growth. I was the same. I actually was more stubborn. I was like a wet blanket, to be honest with you. Like, I really was. So I wanted to make that point. Okay, I got really excited there.
I love it.
Well, how to find me and stuff like that is what you're asking, Glenn?
Yes. How do we find it, and what does the engagement look like?
Yeah. So look, I'll say I've been working for 13 years in a completely different industry, right? I worked in technology sales for a large global company. I was laid off. I was blindsided, laid off in September. Blindsided. Performance was always really good, and I got blindsided.
September of 22.
September of 22.
Yep.
Exactly. Been there 13 years, same company, in leadership positions, really excelling. It was a hard pill to swallow. And I've accepted the fact that it wasn't because of my performance or anything like that. It's like, it's a business decision. They got rid of a bunch of people in the market. So I'm over that. So what happened was while that was happening, I was starting to find my voice in this recovery space, right? I was sharing a lot. I created this Instagram account, January 2022. So I had, been about 9 months or so. And I was sharing a lot of my story and all these things. and connecting with a lot of amazing people and really finding a passion here. So since then, I've gotten my recovery coaching, license certification, and now I'm just really giving this a shot. Like I'm giving this a shot. So I'm coaching clients. I did a bunch of sessions for men. I was doing like weekly support groups for men because I find that it is a unique thing, with men and ego. Because I know, because I suffered with that. So I really wanted to focus on the men. So I was doing like free support groups just to kind of get my feet wet. Do I like this? Am I connecting? So I did that for about 5-6 months. And after that, I was like, hey, this is, I'm really enjoying this. So let's try something. It was around January. I was like, okay, January is a pretty big thing. Let's do some group. So I opened it up, male and female, did some group for a month. And I really enjoyed that. And I made a lot of great connections. I learned a lot about myself. I pushed myself more in different ways. And I felt like I was helping some people. So now I'm feeling a bit of a calling here to push myself outside my comfort zone, because I've taken the safe route my entire life working for big companies, right? It's safe. Now it's like I'm venturing kind of on my own. I don't know if I'm going to fail or if I'm going to succeed. And my palms are sweaty. But I know, because my palms are sweaty, that I'm on the right path. Like I'm really pushing myself. So to kind of answer your question, right now I'm focusing on one-on-one. So I'm focusing on one-on-one coaching. It's all virtually. And I'll tell you something, I'm sure you can kind of hear a little bit of my tone is I'm huge on mindset recovery, and also, fitness and running, right? Like it doesn't have to be running, but that connection that we talked about. So how I'm working with my clients is I want to bring my clients, because I'm finding that I'm attracting the work hard, play hard mentality. Okay. 95% of the people that are reaching out to me, either setting up calls or they want to get to know me a little bit better, they're high functioning. They have the job, they have the family, they have so many amazing things in their lives, but they have this one thing called alcohol that's maybe holding them back a little bit.
Right.
And they know that.
Right.
But they're also saying to themselves, hey, I'm making a boatload of money. I'm in good shape. I got I'm still married. I haven't lost much, but I know something's holding me back. And those are the people I'm attracting. And it makes me very excited, because I want to bring people from here to like their greater purpose and really, really achieving their best self. That's what I'm after.
That's awesome.
And I know
man.
it's a bit different, a bit unique, but that's it. It's kind of happening this way.
I love it. How do people find you?
So if you go to my website, Marathon numerical number 2 sobriety.
Yeah, we're going to put this in the resource room, right?
Yeah, exactly. You can find me there on my Instagram account, Marathon 2 sobriety. For your viewers today, if you go to my website, marathon2sobriety.ca, you can sign up for my newsletter and you'll get a free guide. I put together a guide recently. It took me a lot of time, actually. How to survive, how to be the life of the party sober.
Right. I saw that. I read that. It's awesome. Yeah. Great resource.
Yeah. So, I'm having fun. I've never felt more fulfilled in what I'm doing. I mean, I've never made less money than I'm making now.
There you go.
But it's not about the money.
How's that working for you?
It's scary. I have a 3-year-old daughter. My wife's talking about having another baby. We live in Toronto, very expensive. It's pretty scary, guys. I'm not gonna lie. But
just so you know, I mean, she can talk all she wants, but if you're not cooperating, if you know what I mean, you're not going to have the baby. I'm just suggesting.
That's a whole nother session, Mike.
I'm
Come
just
on, man.
suggesting that she
That's a
can talk
whole
all
nother
she
session.
wants.
yeah.
All right, man. Thank you so much. This has been like super enlightening.
It's been awesome connecting, man.
We'll put the resources, your links up in the resource room. We wish you the best of luck, and I have a feeling you might have picked up a client today in Glen.
We'll see.
Listen, guys, I appreciate you guys having me. Glenn, I don't know how many times I've written you that I wanted to be on your show. So
Handful.
Thanks for finally giving me the nod. I appreciate it. And
No,
I appreciate,
absolutely.
what you guys are doing for a lot of, for the community, really giving people, an outlet to share, an outlet to listen, and that's what it's all about. So
Yes.
thanks to both of you.
Awesome, man.
Sounds great.
Way to go, Coach Luc. I'm a badass. You're
Coach Luc.
you're a sober stud.
Sober
signing,
stud.
Signing
I love it.
off. Goodbye.
All right, see you, Luke.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for joining us for today's coffee chat. To contact the show, email us at podcast@sober.coffee. If you need immediate help, the AA hotline is 800-839-1686. The National Suicide Prevention Hotline is 800-273-8255. Remember, Mike and Glenn are sharing their own journey on the path to recovery. Any suggestions, medical or otherwise, are their own experiences and should not be viewed as professional advice. See you next week, and remember, there is a solution.
Stay safe in the city of Chicago.